Today's book review is hard to call a book review because it's essentially just the telling of someone's life and all their wisdom. And I want to call it a book chat because I don't feel like it's right to call it a review. So today's book chat is Tuesdays with Maury. There is a content creator that I've followed for probably 8 years of my life now. Her name is Margot Lee, and she runs a company that she built from the ground up. It's a journaling company. It's great. I actually own 2 of the journals, and all of her videos are just so beautiful. But one of the prompts that she put in her journals is, when was the last time you did something for the first time? And she recently posted that it's one of her favorite conversation starters. In pondering that in my own life, I realized that I actually did something for the first time a couple of days ago, and that was complete a book in a single day. I didn't set out with the intentions to do this. I just genuinely couldn't stop reading the book. And I feel so grateful to have the time in the day on that specific day to read the whole book. It's one of the small things that I'm really grateful for at this point in my life, is how much time I can dedicate to reading and how much I'm making an effort to do that. Now, it is 180 pages and the margins are smaller than the typical book, but I'm still proud of myself for getting through a book in a singular day. It's something that I've never done, something that if you told me probably 4 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, right, that's just not what I'm going to do. This book was just genuinely feeding my heart in that moment and my mind, and I was so enthralled by it. I didn't want to do anything other than finish this book. Tuesdays with Maury is such a wonderful telling of the wisdom of Maury's life. But what I found at the beginning that I really, really loved about this book was the position that Mitch Albom took in it, in that he was able to be so vulnerable and so open about all the ways that he felt he was pursuing the wrong things in life, or too caught up in perception rather than enjoying his life. And I think that voice added to this story immediately made him someone that you could connect to as you read the book. When I originally went into this, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to get out of it, other than just, well, not just, other than the life lessons that Maury was going to share with us. But I got a lot more of it because I think that Mitch did a really good job at using his voice in the storytelling as well. When I finished this book at the end of the night, I was genuinely lost for words because I had consumed so many good pieces of wisdom and just so much great perspective on life that everything that I could have said had no meaning because I didn't need to add anything to it, So it makes me kind of lost for words as I sit here today, because it is just such a good standalone piece of work that there's not a lot more I can say to make it better, because it is really great. I would say that while being mindful that this is still heavy in some sense, because it is dealing with death and looking towards our lives in the fact that we are going to die. So be mindful in that. But this would be a really great book to gift. I was reading it and I was just thinking of all the avenues of life that it covers. If you pick this up in the right time of your life, or you gift it at the right time of your life, this is going to be a blessing that sits on your shelf and you keep forever. This book I won't be getting rid of. I will be keeping forever. There's just so much value in someone being able to speak so vulnerably about their life and the things that they have learned, and being able to read that in a time where you can still implement these lessons and learn to live your life better, for lack of a better word, I guess. I have a couple notes that I wrote while I was reading this book. This book should be required reading for everyone. It's just enriched with wisdom, yet also deep vulnerability that screams, we are all the same. You're worrying, I'm worrying, we're all worrying. And a separate one, oh, this is like being punched in the gut. My gut literally sank on page 39. Let's read it. I'm trying to think of what that was. In the campus bookstore, I shopped for the items on Maury's reading list. I purchased books that I never knew existed, titles such as Youth, Identity and Crisis, I and Thou, The Divided Self. Before college, I did not know the study of human relations could be considered scholarly. Until I met Maury. I did not believe it. But his passion for books is real and contagious. We begin to talk seriously sometimes, after class, when the room has emptied. He asks me questions about my life, then quotes lines from Erich Fromm, Martin Buber, Erik Erikson. Often he defers to the words, footnoting his own advice, even though he obviously thought the same things himself. It is at these times that I realize he is indeed a professor, not an uncle. You hop down, buddy? One afternoon, I am complaining about the confusion of my age, what is expected of me versus what I want for myself. Have I told you about the tension of opposites? He says. The tension of opposites? Life is a series of pulls back and forth. You want to do one thing, but you are bound to do something else. Something hurts you, yet you know it shouldn't. You take certain things for granted, even when you know you should never take anything for granted. A tension of opposites, like a pull on a rubber band, and most of us live somewhere in the middle. Sounds like a wrestling match, I say. A wrestling match, he laughs. Yes, you could describe life that way. So which side wins? I ask. Which side wins? He smiles at me, the crinkled eyes, the crooked teeth. Love wins. Love always wins. So if that doesn't convince you to read this book, then I don't know what. It's just such a beautiful relationship. I also really appreciate a story that's told from two completely different positions in life. People who've lived through two different generations. People who are beginning their life, in the middle of their life, at the end of their life. It's just such a complete way to give the advice that it's trying to give. Okay, I'm going to read one more snippet from the book. And a little bit of context for this. I'm sure you're watching this because you have read this, but Maury is suffering with ALS and slowly losing control over his muscles. So that makes this passage make a little bit more sense. He nodded toward the window with the sunshine streaming in. You see that? You can go out there, outside, anytime. You can run up and down the block and go crazy. I can't do that. I can't go out. I can't run. I can't be out there without fear of getting sick. But you know what? I appreciate that window more than you do. Appreciate it? Yes, I look out that window every day. I notice the change in the trees, how strong the wind is blowing. It's as if I can see time actually passing through that window pane. Because I know my time is almost done. I'm drawn to nature like I'm seeing it for the first time. So, there's a word called frisson, and it's when you get goosebumps from listening to a song. I think that we need to develop one for words, because I got goosebumps genuinely reading that for the second time. I appreciate that window more than you do. It was just such a beautiful taste of Maury's personality and his perspective and his strength and his ability to find the good that's around him, regardless of everything else deteriorating. It's almost hard to wrap your brain around someone who can be so calm and so reserved in their mind when they're struggling with something so serious compared to the trivial things of day-to-day life. But there's also a sense of awe in how he gets there, and it's such a good reminder for us in our trivial things, or even, I'm sure, like right now, I'm not struggling with anything in comparison to what Maury is struggling. But I'm sure if I read this in a moment where I was, it would be even more impactful. And finally, I just want to talk about how grateful I am to read books. This is a book that reminded me that, like I said, it's required reading, and it made me sit there and go, I'm so glad that I get to read this book, and I'm so glad that so many people get to read this book, and so many people should read this book, because it adds so much to your life. But more than that, I felt like I got to know someone that I never would have gotten to know, and his wisdom has left a mark in my life. And as I finished it, I was just thinking how beautiful it is that he took his last moments and he gave them to Mitch to have one-on-one conversations and to invest in him. And in his last days, he was thinking about other people and what he can do for them. And beyond Mitch, he also gave that to all of us. And I just think, what a wonderful person to feel like you want to give your time away. So, I'm not going to read anything else from this book because I don't want to share all of his wisdom here because you should go read the book for yourself. But this was definitely one of my favorite reads that I've read so far this year. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. I will catch up with you soon.